So it's free. We're here. Hey guys, if you're with us for the first time, last week we did our first ever Blab session with Seth and X. Seth is in. I mean, I don't know if the windows are organized the same way everywhere, but like Seth is in the top right corner. I feel like a TV show or something. What was that? And Jericho is ADD, and he's not sitting down. He's just going to pace back and forth.
Hey, Jericho?
Yeah?
Make sure you don't have multiple tabs open, because that makes it feedback. We just figured that out.
I actually have my volume. Oh, other things?
Multiple tabs, he said.
Yeah, multi-tabs in there. Poor internet signal.
That just upset him.
He's like, no!
Gone.
Screw that, I'm out of here. As soon as, anyways, yeah, there he is. Okay, he's probably going to close down whatever tabs. And
yeah, he and I are in the same room as well.
Oh, that's true. Same room. That's gonna cause some interesting things.
Yeah, mine's off. So we just use yours as the main one. Phones are so confusing.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, that's like Chris. Chris is in the room, and Chris Weeks. How do you know all this stuff? Chris Weeks is a chatter. He's in the message section, and he's got all kinds of advice. Chris, how do you know all this stuff? If you don't mind me asking.
X.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose?
Oh wait, Joel.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Okay, let's just dive right in.
Okay.
And I was in the studio with Seth doing some songwriting, and we weren't at the Full Circle music studio that you guys work out of generally. We were in a songwriting house for Centricity Records, and basically what Seth said was that you guys don't produce demos. That you go straight from like, here's an idea to something that is really, really high quality. And that kind of blew my mind because I've been making demos all this time. And obviously someone is highly effective while I'm being very wasteful in my efforts. How did you guys get to the point where it's like demos? We're just going to skip demos and just do full production.
I mean, from my vantage point, can one of you guys mute your...
My phone is muted.
His is muted. It might just be a collaboration of everybody's volumes being up, especially on laptops because the mic's close to the speakers sometimes.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn mine down each time I talk, just to see.
That's already way better.
To answer your question, I think we just figured out a long time ago that, at least for how Full Circle Music does things, the production and the songwriting process goes very hand in hand. So a lot of the times by the end of a songwriting session, well, usually we have a pretty good skeleton of what the production is going to feel like. Sometimes we'll wind up completely revamping.
Right.
But I don't know. I just think it's really important nowadays to present your idea in as professional a shell as possible, or a professional frame as possible. I think it just removes distraction. For the average person, I think when you hear a vocal that might be a little bit off, I think somebody might think, well, it's not a bad production. They might just jump to straight, well, it's a bad song. And so we try to just remove as many distractions from the process as possible, and it's obviously everything's serving a song. So we don't really differentiate demos from production. We don't really do a whole lot different. I mean, we're not really listening with demo ears versus. Can you guys hear me, or is it still going crazy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're not really listening with demo ears so much as we just do the same thing no matter what we're doing. It's always has to be very high quality. So that's sort of our
For sure.
mantra.
It sounds too like when we were songwriting, like even the ideas captured were production quality. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, very often. Yeah, I mean, we're always running through some sort of a good chain, which nowadays doesn't necessarily mean it has to be crazy expensive. I mean, a lot of our keeper demos or keeper vocals were recorded through an SM7 straight into a UAD Apollo Twin.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of the stuff on the finished For King and Country single, the Fix My Eyes song, was. I'm pretty sure that was a lot of that record was just the SM7 in the back of their bus. So
Great.
Nowadays, I feel like we've just worked really hard on kind of dialing in the UAD plugins and getting them to sound like we want them to. And X has done an amazing job with kind of creating these pretty amazing sounding vocal chains right in the box. So.
And I found the same thing of even like the kick, your signal chain for like whatever you're dragging into a channel in Logic. It just seems like everything sounds great from the start. So is that X's fault?
I don't think it's my fault per se. I think it's just between all of us. It's just been a matter of just working on sounds and getting two bus chains together, just where right off the bat it at least sounds inspiring to work on, and it just keeps things moving orderly.
For sure. It also makes it feel like because I was there, I can attest to the fact that when you have, it's a creative environment still, even though it's highly produced, I guess, in a sense, the quality is so high, and yet you're still able to, because you're capturing things in real time, you're able to follow the path of the idea and capture it. You know what I mean? So that's a really interesting trick. It's a really good tip too. Like if you're going to be in a recording context, you got to be ready to capture ideas, and then if you want to use those captured ideas, the signal chain has to be really good, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, when I didn't really go into like a background. How did you guys meet? How are all of you guys involved in Full Circle?
Well, I met Seth.
eHarmony. Nice, Seth. Nice.
I was gonna give
you look like your profile, X.
I think I met Seth probably 4 years ago, just through a mutual friend, and he needed to track some drums. And I had a studio space, and I had a day open, so he came over, and we recorded some drums on a Newsboys song. And the song has since done pretty well. And so from there, we just kind of started hanging out and worked on a couple other things together. And over time, we just kind of started finding that we worked well together, and it just became kind of a more and more consistent thing. And now it's an all-in kind of thing.
It's cool. And Jericho, is are you new to the group? Like, how long have you been working as an engineer with the guys?
Well, I started working with Seth just over a year ago, but more as just editing for him. And then beginning of this year, decided to fill it in more as a full-time position. So actually, X and I have bumped into each other a couple times outside before this, but never as working or collaborating with each other. And so around I don't know, March or April or something like that, just started coming on full time at Full Circle, and I think the guys like me being around, so that's why I stayed on.
Well, I think I scoured the internet for pictures of you all, because I do that because I'm just super creepy.
Where did you find them, by the way?
Nobody knows who my stuff.
Well, I think the crazy thing that I was going to say is that Jericho's the only one I could find holding a Grammy statue.
Really? Well,
Jericho, why don't you share your Grammy your golden unicorn story?
Yeah.
Well, came to Nashville. I moved here, and then after a few months, I started working with Chris Stevens, and I was just his kind of a guy. And so the first project I started working on was Toby Mac's "Eye on It" album.
Yeah.
And it came out in August, and it ended up winning Album of the Year. So,
That's awesome.
Not bad for a first credited album.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take it.
Trust me, I have no complaints. I feel blessed.
Of Grammys. Here, 1 sec. Yeah, it's empty. Sorry.
But I mean that kind of goes on and on, though, right, Jericho? I mean, the big thing that he called me after we won our first Grammy with the For King and Country record was basically that every single person that he's worked with has wound up winning a Grammy or a Dove Award or some combination of both.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah. I've been in here for 3 years.
That's good news for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Book some travel for next February.
Right.
If you just figure out the causal relationship, like if it's just because of the people that you're around, or is it you specifically, you've got a good long career ahead of you if you can figure that out.
Oh, well, thank you, man. It's definitely the people. To me, that's where it completely starts, and then after that, things just blossom from there.
Dude, so that's another thing that I've noticed is that Seth, you surround yourself with really great people through the whole, I'm going to call it like the relationship signal chain. And that is like really solid writers. Oh, sorry, let me just decline this inbound phone call coming to me on my Mac.
Technology from all angles.
So like the relationship signal chain is really good, right? It's like you work with great writers, so you're writing a lot.
Yeah.
You work with great engineers in a great environment. So like, and then someone who is obviously on the tail end of all the production is like the mixing and then the mastering. You know, you guys do a lot of that stuff internally. And when I was listening to the stuff that we were going through in the studio, it seemed like a lot of it was kind of mastered. I mean, without having gone to a mastering studio, seems like it was like ready to go, super punchy, very tight mixes on the demo stuff. How do people accomplish that? Now, obviously, not a lot of the people who are here probably have the setup you guys have because it comes through a lot of years of investment and hard work. But how would you suggest? Like, I'm here. I've got a couple Adams reference monitors. I've got like a Shure. This is the KSM 9 microphone, and I'm just interested in kind of getting my ideas across well. What is like the first tool of choice? What would you say? Like, invest in this first.
Okay, are you talking like
Two-bus,
or are you talking about just like gear in general?
I guess I'm talking. Let's assume that the song is good, and let's assume that the writer is a decent writer, and they've had some experience writing, but they're interested in kind of getting the message across to the next person in the room. You know what I mean? And all they have time for is to pass off an MP3 file. Like, what is the piece of gear? Is there something of value that they can invest in that will give them a good, solid start, if not the whole picture?
Well, I would say for one piece to do a lot of stuff, like out of everything that I think we use a lot, as Seth was saying earlier, the UAD stuff is pretty stellar. I mean, it combines an interface with signal processing and as well as proprietary plugins. Through all, like just even what you get from just buying their interfaces like the prepackaged plugins, it gives you a ton of options, whether it is for recording bass, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, vocals, all of that can all be processed while recording in. And sound killer just using their plugins. And then again during the mix, I mean, the plugins sound great. I think all of that gives you a decent starting point.
So that's the UA twin, right? The Apollo twin. You got
you get that link I put.
We have a twin, we have a duo, and we have a quad.
Right.
Just any of their interfaces, they all come with the plugins.
Yeah, awesome. So there, Seth just posted the link. It's for the Apollo twin. I think that's the single one or whatever. They probably have a bunch listed on Sweetwater. And that's a combination of things, right? It's not just the hardware; it's the plugins that come along with it as well.
Yep, absolutely.
VST, RTAS, whatever DAW you want to use.
Yeah. They should work with VST audio units. They do AAX now for Pro Tools 11 over, and you can still get RTAS for it. I believe.
Right. Cool.
I'd probably
lying to people.
I'd probably even back up a level and say, I mean, I think that UAD is incredible, and you need a good interface like that and good plugins. But I would say even before that, just if you don't, at a very basic level, I mean, depending on where everybody's at, I mean, Logic, or even back up a little from that, GarageBand is an amazing place to start because it pretty much is Logic with less functionality.
Yeah.
Logic is $200, which is crazy. It has, I mean, the amount of sounds that you get in plugins for $200 is unbelievable. When you kind of get good at that, depending on if you're a programmer, you might not ever need an interface like that. I mean, I don't know that are guys like Skrillex and Diplo even using an interface?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, probably just for the vocal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're I don't know. Most of the stuff is in the can, I would imagine, on the DJ end of things.
Yeah.
Like plugins or packs that they use for either Ableton or whatever. But you're right. There's a lot of the hard and heavy lifting is in the DAWs that are often built right into your computer now. You know what I mean? You don't even need to buy GarageBand anymore. It's like it comes with the Mac that you get. Right? Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, Logic is what I've used for a long time. I've learned how to use Pro Tools more recently, and X has learned how to use Logic. It's basically like we've each kind of learned a second language in the last year, or third language.
I'm a tech guy, so I'm just gonna say, like, suck it up, guys. Like, I'm just kidding. There are so many, and they do have their detail. The little intricate things that are slightly different that you have to kind of just assimilate, right? How often do you switch your DAWs for production though, like for demoing?
Like every day.
Really?
Yeah. Well, pretty much every song we do touches both Pro Tools and Logic.
Okay. Why? That makes no sense to me.
It's actually a very sound system.
Yeah.
For the most part. So pretty much while Seth's writing, he's working in Logic.
Okay.
And for a lot of reasons, and he's worked in it a long time, and all the sounds and all that. So the song will start in Logic, and then once we get to a place where we're ready to cut vocals, vocal cutting in Pro Tools is just, at least for me, way easier. Just organizationally, editing-wise. Just the functionality for me is...
Because, okay, so tell me if I'm using your lingo well or not. So you record a couple passes of vocals. In Logic, I hear you. The comping is a little bit difficult, right? Because you almost have to have separate tracks for the vocal takes. Whereas in Pro Tools, you can assign like a bunch of different vocal tracks that you can comp between and select which comp makes it to the top, I guess?
Yes.
Okay, I get it. Dang, everyone now has to learn Pro Tools. Who's in the room? Like you.
It actually, when you're cutting vocals too, it makes it way easier to not have to deal with the whole song worth of tracks. If it's just a stereo track, like even when we do all Pro Tools productions, when we go to cut vocals, we still end up bouncing it down to a 2 mix. and bringing it in because it's just easier for routing and headphone mixes and stuff like that. It's just like straight ahead. So we cut the vocals and we send it also makes sending vocal sessions off to be edited and tuned a lot smaller than having to send the full like 3 gig session. Now it's like 700 meg. We send it to a guy who does some editing on it and then sends it back, and then we just load it back into Logic and continue the mixing process from there.
So do you guys find that there are the young kids who are kind of growing up with the technology in their laptops for school? Do they, when they're producing demos for you, or when they're writing songs, do you find that their production quality is higher because they have access to the tools than maybe some people of my ilk, my generation, the older generation?
I don't know that the quality. I mean, it to me, it always is more about the people than the tools.
Okay.
I think it really depends on the person. I mean, I think somebody who is an older senior citizen like yourself could still do good work on a Tascam tape deck. Granted, I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
I still own one.
Yeah,
I have one. I do, which is super sad. It was my oldest brother's though. So in fairness to me.
But I think it's always less about the people, or less about the tools than it is about the people. I think what Logic and Apple have enabled people to do is to get into it at a much lower barrier cost-wise to entry.
Right. But the people who are going to invest the time and still, I mean, there's still an upfront investment. It just happens to be that it's a ton of time to learn the tools and still use them well. I guess there's the point there too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's that it's the 10,000 hours that you've got to put in, and whether that's on Logic or Pro Tools or Cubase or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just the fact of getting hands-on hours and experience.
I think just as an observer, I think it's super funny to note the irony of the feedback that keeps happening in a blab about sound production. and rather than choose to ignore it, I think we should collectively tackle the problem. But I'm going to just call out Jericho. Your microphone sounds the loudest.
But you're on
random
phone, though, because
there's nothing
no volume coming out of my phone.
He's on his computer now, isn't he?
No, I'm not on my computer. I'm on my phone.
Yeah, I think it's weird. It's like his microphone is taking it all in. That iPhone microphone is amazing.
It is.
5S.
Okay, here's the thing. Have you guys received a legitimate demo on an iPhone that you thought, wow, that is really, really good?
Absolutely. Yes. Actually, our friend, I could call him out on here, is Ben Calhoun, is an iPhone production expert.
Huh.
He has a band called Citizen Way. I think their Twitter is just that, I believe.
Nice.
But the stuff that he does, like, it's funny. Like, we'll be hanging out with him and his wife, and his wife will be like, yeah, so we couldn't, Ben didn't fall asleep last night. He was just up under the covers the whole night with his headphones and his iPhone making this song, and then he plays it for me the next day, and it's like way better than something that a lot of people have spent a lot of time doing on Pro Tools or whatever, I mean, he's just mastered it. So,
you wouldn't happen to know like the app that he's using, right? It's not like a custom tool that he built, right?
It's called GarageBand.
Oh man, crazy! It's crazy. I mean, I guess the displays are getting larger, so like you get an iPhone 6 Plus, and it's basically almost as big as a 27-inch iMac. I mean,
almost.
Right? It's about. I'm not going to do the math for us, but I believe there's a difference of something there that's very small. But yeah,
he probably did that all on an iPhone 3, I would imagine.
I still have the first iPhone is in the office here somewhere. It's archaic, but it's
The wood burner.
The wood burner. You had to stoke it with firewood.
I was gonna say, or crank it.
Yeah. No, that's iteration 2. Iteration 2 had the crank because they were like, oh, we should probably make this easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. We're almost done here. I want to keep it short and sweet so that people come back next week. And I haven't even determined what we're going to talk about next week, but I want to inform people that we're going to try to have another one next week. And the goal of the conversation is always going to be to help artists kind of get to a place where they feel like they're making progress. You know what I mean? And it's really hard as an artist to feel that way. Even I don't even know that I qualify as an artist anymore. But I certainly feel like without really great people around you kind of giving you insight and wisdom into how to go about things, you're kind of like alone in the dark. And we often forget that more than half of the population in North America doesn't live in cities, right? It's pretty
right.
rural. So I think about all the kids who are feeling like they gotta live in Nashville to accomplish a lot of the stuff, and I think this is just one of the ways, hopefully, that we can help those types of artists compete. You know what I mean? Like create cool things. So, do you guys have any last thoughts, comments on demoing? I guess.
So Jericho, we haven't heard a lot from you today.
Yeah.
Speak through the very clear sounding microphone that you have.
Wait, what's the question? Is it?
Do you have any more thoughts on demoing?
Well, I mean, my thing is, the mentality of the old days was, you could just open up a laptop and push record, just an acoustic and a vocal, it's like, and those kind of ideas are just now ideas. Like those don't, those used to be considered demos, and those just don't qualify anymore. And so it's just, my thing is, just you want your demo to be pretty much a finished product. And so if you call it a demo, you're downgrading what it is to begin with. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, when you hand somebody something, it's just like, yeah, this is my demo. Like you've already downgraded it. Whereas,
right.
Giving your song to somebody and saying, here's my song. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference in that.
Absolutely.
And even Angel's question kind of about that, asking when to scrap a song or start from scratch. My thing is, if you ever get burnt out on a song, put it away for a bit. You know what I mean? Like if you feel like you're at a brick wall, definitely stop on it or bring somebody else in on it. Because actually about that, like two minds are always better than one. So that could also help with some of that. And then if you have a new idea, obviously start that. But, just don't, if you think your song is not the best quality it can be, then I encourage you to do the more to make it to the quality you want.
For sure.
And not just end as, oh, this is just a demo.
Yeah, in fact, you bring up a really good point. Seth and I kind of had this conversation a couple weeks back where we were talking about EDM and how it seems like everyone in that market is doing everyone else's song, first off, but then they'll do 12 remixes of the same song, but by 12 different DJs as a I don't know why. I think we came to the conclusion that it was because they were accessing each other's audiences, which was one of the things. But I think to a certain degree, you're probably right too, Jericho. It's like you want to work with other great people who are going to make you think about things in a new way, right?
Absolutely.
If it's a good song on the acoustic guitar and a vocal, then it's probably going to be good enough you viewed and kind of contributed to by a whole bunch of other really smart people. So I guess, it doesn't really work for me because I never split on songs with anyone. I'm just kidding.
How are those songs coming along?
They're really,
Trash
they're
those?
really not ready yet. No, that's exactly right, Jericho. Thank you for pointing out. My songs have not made it anywhere ever. But anything in life that I've collaborated with other really smart people on has done really well, right? So, and that's really the point here, I think, is like, make sure you surround yourself with great people and your relationship signal chain. Wow, I gotta TM that. I gotta trademark that. Relationship signal chain.
There you go, man.
And then just making sure that you're open to kind of sharing ideas with others. Present your best, put your best foot forward, and make sure that your stuff is good as you can possibly make it. And if you can make it good, team up with people who can, right?
That is very true. I think we're all big proponents for surround yourself with people that complement your skill set. And honestly, even if you have the same skill set as somebody else, it can often be a good match. It just is, having the collaboration and two minds put to a project, like Jericho said, is usually better than one or three or four or five or how many ever it takes, I mean, there's a lot of songs that, I don't really get hung up on the splits thing and how many writers are on a song. I mean, some of the biggest songs in pop, I read a Billboard article this past week. The Whether You Love It or Hate It, that Pitbull Timber song, it has like 14 writers on it. And Uptown Funk, I think that one has... No, Pitbull had 10. Uptown Funk had 14 writers on it.
That's crazy.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they were all sitting in a room, shouting across a room, doing it that way. But there were at least 14 people that spoke into that song or that sound or that track at some point in time.
Maybe what we'll do at some point is have a blab writing or at least idea session.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome.
That would be super crazy, I think. But we would credit every single tweet out, right?
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I love that section. You tweeted out, you get 1.5%.
1.5% of a Spotify stream.
Which is already just 1.5% of a cent.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's some nickels around here somewhere where it gets mad.
A long division.
Cool, guys. Well, I so appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hopefully this was useful for you guys and anyone who's listening, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thanks for setting it up.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.